There's so much I want to say in this video because this problem that I have of having arm pain, it's literally been the bane of my existence for the past year and a half, especially in the past 6 months, because it's gotten so severe that I cannot go on my phone or go on my computer for more than a couple of minutes a day without my arms hurting. And sometimes they just hurt. Sometimes I wake up and they're hurting without any technology use. And it is the most frustrating thing to explain to people because it's an invisible injury. Like you can't tell that my arms are injured. You can't tell that I'm in any sort of pain, but I am. Like it sounds crazy. I feel crazy sometimes even like explaining this to people because everyone uses a computer, everyone types on a computer, everyone is on their phone for hours a day, but it seems like not a lot of people have this problem. But I feel like I need to share my story to warn people who are especially prone to getting RSI, repetitive strain injury, which is what I have in my arms, from typing too much and clicking a mouse too much. Um, I think it's a problem that our generation specifically will probably have a lot of as we get older, but I'm experiencing this firsthand and it's literally such a pain in my ass every single day. Like my arms, they're in pain right now and there's nothing I can do about it. I've had this for, I've had severe symptoms for maybe 6 months now, but my first symptom started a year and a half ago. So I'll start from the beginning and sort of explain like my entire journey with this injury because it's a long one. So, um, so last October, so two Octobers ago, I broke my ankle when I was playing soccer, which left me immobilized. And I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't even like cook my own food. I couldn't go downstairs. All I had was my computer and my phone. So I spent 12 hours a day on the computer coding or just surfing the web. This was when I really got into the startup hole online and was really invested in like learning how to code better, learning how to build websites, trying to watch YouTube videos to better understand AI and um, the models behind it. So I was on the computer and I was working my full-time tech job remotely. So I was on the computer for 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and with pretty bad ergonomics too. I didn't prioritize like getting a really nice setup. Like I was just raw dogging it on my laptop every day. And I first had symptoms in my right wrist. So I was using a mouse, normal mouse to click. And I started to notice a bit of pain in my right wrist, but I kind of just waved it off, thinking that, it would just go away by itself. And it probably would have, but because I was using the computer so much, I never allowed for it to heal. So I kept on using the computer, and the pain um, started to creep into my forearms. That was when I switched my mouse to my left hand. So I would alternate both hands using the mouse. And I think the mouse was the main problem at this point. But all switching hands did was transfer the pain into my left hand. So now I had pain in both hands. And then over the course of the next couple months, like the pain would kind of like ebb and flow. If I used the computer for multiple hours at a time, it would become pretty severe and pretty painful. And then I would probably stop for a little bit. But every day I was still using the computer for hours and hours and my phone as well. And the pain, really just started to creep up. And the amount of time that I could spend on a computer started to decrease before the pain would start showing up. And it got to a point where, like, even if I was just clicking a couple buttons, like I woke up in the morning and I went on my computer and clicked a couple buttons, immediately, like, there was just pain. So that was when I realized something was probably more serious, but I still didn't take it super seriously. I thought if I rested for a week, it would be back to normal. So that's what I did. I went on vacation for a week and I barely touched my computer. When I came back, I started clicking a mouse and immediately the pain was back. And I was like, oh my God, like what is happening? I don't know how to fix this. Like, do I need to rest for longer? I didn't know what to do. And at the same time, I was still kind of just trudging along because I still had my full time job. I was working in tech. And I was still trying to work on these side projects like for the startup. So I was still going on the computer for less amounts of time now, maybe like 1 to 2 hours before the pain would really get unbearable. But I was still trying to like work through it, thinking that it would just go away. And I think this is a point where I really should have taken it super seriously and immediately like went to the doctors, like got a diagnosis, probably took time off of my job to really heal. But it just seemed so extreme in my head to take these measures because it was an invisible injury. Like it ebbed and flowed, right? Some days I could work for hours and there would be no pain, but some days I would get pain immediately after I started typing. So I felt like I was being gaslit by it a little bit too. I didn't know what exactly was happening, and the pain wasn't very consistent. But eventually, about 6 months ago, it got to the point where as soon as I went on the computer, there would be a lot of pain in both arms. And sometimes I would wake up in the morning just with pain. Um, and there was this 1 month, I remember, it was really bad. I had nearly a month of just pain every single day. I was not even on my computer at all. I was taking some time off of work and trying to not use my phone as much, but still using some. But I would just wake up with pain and it would persist all day long. And I knew something was like seriously wrong at that point. So that was when I went to the doctors to get it checked out. And, the doctors, like, they really can't do much for you because it's like tendonitis basically. So there's really not much they can do other than tell you to go to physical therapy, which is what I did. And I still do physical therapy by myself, but I don't know how much that has helped exactly. I think the main thing is probably just resting. Um, so it was at that point about 3 months ago when I realized like I need to take this super seriously. I need to like just quit all computer use and all phone use as much as possible. And the only way to do that is to quit my job. And this was a huge decision. It's a type of decision I've never made in my life before. It felt wrong in a sense to prioritize this injury that felt so invisible and like hard to even explain to people. And sometimes I felt like I was going a little crazy. Like, is the pain just all in my head? But regardless, I knew I had to do something extreme about it because at this point, I mean, I was just waking up with pain. I couldn't use any technology. Like, my life, it was miserable. I couldn't do anything without thinking about the pain in my arms. So I decided to quit my job, and there were a lot of other factors for why I wanted to quit too, because I wanted to solo travel, and the only way to really do that is, to have large chunks of free time. Um, so yeah, I decided to quit my job. I decided to quit my job and I started solo traveling. I've been solo traveling for about 3 months now, and during my travel, I've been extremely careful about the amount of technology I use. It's impossible to avoid all technology use because I need to be on my phone to navigate. I need to pull up the plane tickets. I need to buy tickets. I need to, do all sorts of things that traveling requires. But I've been incredibly careful about trying to minimize the amount of technology use as much as possible. And when I first started traveling, that was when my symptoms were the worst. Sometimes I would just wake up with pain with no computer use, no phone use. And that that persisted for maybe a month and a half. I remember when I was in Taiwan, the first place I went to when I started traveling, I would put my phone on the table so I didn't have to hold it with my hand because that also irritated my muscles. I would put my phone on the table, like stand it up on the table, and I would like swipe with my thumb like this, just like two swipes, and immediately like I would feel the irritation come back. And I felt like I was going crazy. I was like, how is this possible? And it's the most frustrating thing ever because it's so easy to gaslight yourself into thinking that it's not a real injury. You see people using their phones for hours and hours, like so much more intensely than you do, and they have no problems at all. And then for me, I'm over here like doing two swipes, and immediately I'm like in pain. I it's so hard for me to wrap my head around, but at this point I knew, I was in way too deep. Like if I don't take really serious action now, it's just going to get worse and worse, and eventually I might not even be able to do daily things with my hands. Like at least right now I can still, write in my journal. I can do pretty much normal things. Sometimes I would get pain if I'm like chopping vegetables or I don't know, doing something like intensely with my hands. But for the most part, it's fine. It's manageable. And now I'm at a 3 month mark of basically no computer use and very minimal phone use every day. And I feel like this past week, just this past week, it's starting to get a little bit better. I was able to use my computer for maybe like an hour, hour and a half for like 2 or 3 days. And my arms felt okay. I'm really trying to not strain it too much, but it is so incredibly hard when like your entire life has just been on computers and been on phones. Like it's so easy for me to just slip into this routine of like scrolling Instagram, opening my email, scrolling through my email, and then suddenly it's been an hour. Like it's so you just have to be so constantly aware of like exactly how much technology you're using. And I think as a society, especially our generation, we're just so not aware of that constantly. Like when we're even just like going to the bathroom, you like pull up Instagram, or like when you're waiting in line to get a coffee, you pull up TikTok. Like you're just not aware of how much technology you use at all. And that's really alarming. um but yeah, I'm still, very deep in the recovery process, and it has just been so emotionally draining. Like it's easy now that I'm traveling to sort of distract myself on a day-to-day basis, but when the pain is there, and especially if I'm alone, like the thoughts, like they really just spiral, and it's just so frustrating because it's been such a long recovery process, and it just feels like there's nothing I can do about it. I've done a lot of research online on Reddit, and there are a lot of like doomsday cases are like I've had RSI for 20 years and I'm still struggling with it. But then there's also, more optimistic cases are like I stopped using the computer, or I switched my mouse, I switched my keyboard, and the pain went away completely. So I don't know. On one hand, I'm trying to be grateful that at least I can still do other things. Like some people who have even more severe RSI than me, they can't even like pick up a fork or like do something very simple with their hands. And yeah, it's just really, really frustrating. And it's really hard to stay optimistic because it's such a chronic condition and it affects such a big part of my life because I work in tech and I need to use a computer, I need to use my phone. Um, yeah, it's just so incredibly frustrating. I do feel a little bit more optimistic that it will eventually get better, but I need to stay consistent with my lack of technology use. And it's just so hard, like, especially because I've been so deprived for so long. Like, all I want to do is just scroll on TikTok or like just like read my emails. And it's just so easy to like fall into that trap. As soon as I open my laptop, like there's just so many things sucking me in, and suddenly like an hour has gone by and I don't even realize, and my arms are hurting again. Um, but yeah, I want to make this video just to kind of warn people who probably don't know about this kind of injury. There's a lot of different variations, like carpal tunnel, um, like mouse shoulder, mouse finger. And I think it's something that is so easy for us to get because we just, like, our generation to get, because we're just constantly on the computer and our jobs depend on the computer. I will say a lesson that I've learned from this experience is to always prioritize my health over everything else. The reason that my condition has gotten so bad is because I kept on waving off the pain, thinking, I'm young, like it can't be that serious, like it's just gonna get better by itself. And I still prioritize my work over healing. And I'm glad that I was able to take that very extreme. I'm glad that I was able to make that very extreme and hard decision to quit my job. And I'm very lucky that I have the privilege to be able to do that. A lot of people aren't able to quit their jobs. Um, but I'm just really hoping that I'm doing enough to let my body heal. And I'm trying to be patient and optimistic and just trying to distract myself as much as possible. But yeah, it's probably the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with in my life. People learn my lesson and learn to recognize the symptoms of RSI or carpal tunnel or whatever from like a very early stage, so that they can kind of nip it in the bud before it starts to get really bad. And just know to like take it seriously.